Hello everyone, and we're on Friday's maths lesson. We've got another 5-a-day to start us off, our last one of the week. So let's have a little look, shall we? The first one says, find the total of 7, 5 and 3. So you need to add those numbers together. It's up to you how you do it, but looking at those numbers, I would see if there were any number bonds in there, maybe a number bond to 10 to start me off. Have a little look. If you've got a piece of paper to write it down on, that might be a good idea. If you want to draw a number line, however it works for you, that's fine. So find the total of 7, 5 and 3. So I would do 7 and 3 first, because that makes 10, and then I know I've just got to add 5 on. And 10 add 5 is 15. 15 is my answer for that one. Next one, half of 16. We could draw some halving circles, couldn't we? So we could draw two groups, share out 16. What's the answer? Half of 16 is 8. Well done. Some of you might just know that as a number fact. That's fine. Which two numbers make 20? So I've got 2, 5 and 18. Which two numbers make 20 when I add them together? It's a nice easy one, isn't it? 18 and 2 make 20, don't they? I've got a nice clock face here. Look at my long minute hand and my short hour hand. Look where they're pointing. What's the time? Is it 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 4:30, or 3:30? Which one? Here's my hour hand. What hour has it gone past? Here's my minute hand. It's 3:30. 3:30, well done. Last one. Help Safi complete the addition sentence using the tens frame. 13 add 2 equals... So she's already filled it in for us, look. Here's our 10. And then in her next 10 frame, she's got the 3 from 13 and the 2 more that she's added on. So what have we got all together? Safi made 15, didn't she? Well done. Okay. Carrying on with our maths then. So for our last lesson this week, we're going to do some problem solving with fractions. I have included comparing fractions as a problem solving activity because I think that's quite tricky in itself. So comparing fractions and problem solving with fractions is what we're going to do today. So which of these fractions is larger? Which is bigger? A third or a quarter? Have a look at how much of the circle is shaded. Here's a quarter. Look at the size of that quarter compared to the size of a third. Which is larger? 1/3 is, oh, what's this symbol? Who thinks they remember? I know you've done this already in year 2 and in year 1. It's the greater than symbol, isn't it? 1/3 is greater than. I always think of it as a crocodile with his mouth wide open and he's really greedy and he always eats the biggest thing, okay? The greater than, okay? So 1/3 is greater than a quarter. Ooh, which is less? So my crocodile is going to be facing away from the small fraction and gobbling up that bigger fraction, whichever way it's facing. So, fractions of quantity as well. Here we are. So half of 8. Here are my 8 sweets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Half of them. Half of 8. How many have I got in one half? I've got 4, haven't I? Or 3/4 of 8. Remember, we're looking for which is less this time. So here's my 8, 3/4. Can you notice I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 columns there? So 3 of those columns is going to be my 3/4, isn't it? Here we are, 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So half of 8 is 4. 3/4 of 8 is 6. We want to know which is less. Here's my less symbol, look. So it's pointing away. So the wide crocodile mouth is open to the bigger number, isn't it? Okay, so that is half of 8 is less than 3/4 of 8. Super. So we can say that half of 8 is smaller, can't we? How would you compare these fractions? I've got half of my square or 2/4 of my square. If you were doing good listening earlier in the week, you will know a fact about these two fractions, won't you? Have a look at how much of the overall shape is shaded. Compare them. Is one greater? Is one lesser? They're the same, aren't they? It's the same amount. Do you remember me saying that 2/4 was equivalent to a half? It's the same. So we need the equal sign for that, don't we? Some of you with your activities today will be using the greater than, less than, and equal sign, or that language, to help you to think about fractions and how to compare them. So which are bigger, which are smaller, how do they compare against each other? Some of them will be the same. I may well have been sneaky and put 2/4 and a half in there for you to compare. So look closely. Some of us, though, will be solving word problems. So I just want to remind you of the steps that we talked about right at the start of the week with division, because the same steps apply. The first thing we need to do is to read our question carefully and then pick out the numbers. That might be a fraction, it could be the total number that you're looking at. Then think about what you're going to do. How are you going to work that out? Then you're going to actually work it out. And that last step, the one that everybody always forgets or rushes past, check your answer. You'd be surprised how often when you think and go back and check, you will find something that you might have accidentally put wrong, or you might be thinking again about the problem, okay? So here's an example. I'm just going to move my little screen out of my way so I can read it. There were 4 apples on the tree. John eats half of them. How many does he eat? So that's step 1. I've read my problem. Now I'm going to pick out the numbers. So I think actually 4 is the number because that's my total number, isn't it? That's my total amount. There are 4 apples on the tree. I think the half is actually telling me what to do. So that's the next step, isn't it? What am I going to do? I'm going to halve 4. So to halve 4, I'm going to split it into how many groups? Look at my fraction. What's the bottom number? I'm going to split 4 into 2 equal groups, aren't I? So I'm going to draw 2 groups on the board. Here they are, 1, 2. And I'm going to share those apples out. I'm going to put 1 in each group, taking it in turns until I've shared them all out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, he only eats 1 half. So how many of those groups am I looking at now? My numerator, my top number says 1, so I just want to look at one of those groups. There are 2 in that group. So half of 4 is 2. He has eaten 2 apples. And that's it. I've solved my problem. I can check it. The opposite of halving is doubling, isn't it? So if half of 4 is 2, then double 2 must be 4, which it is. I can check by counting on my board. Okay, so you might want to check your answers or just run the question again. Let's have a go at this one. There are 12 people on the bus. Ooh, what's my fraction this time? Let's have a look. 1/4. 1/4 are children. How many children are there? So I'm going to quarter this time. So I've read it. I'm picking out my number. My total is 12. Okay, that's how many people are on the bus in total. 1/4 of those people are children. So I need to find out how many are children. 1/4. How many groups do I need this time? What am I splitting it into? I'm splitting 12 into 4 equal groups, aren't I? So this time I'm going to draw 4 groups on the board. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you do your working out, it might help if you draw boxes or circles on a piece of paper or get 2 or 3 sheets of paper, spread them out so that you've got your groups, okay? So I've got my 4 groups here and I'm going to share out 12 equally between these groups, 1 in each group at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've shared them out equally. Don't need to keep counting. I've got to 12. That's enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1/4. So how many of those groups am I going to be looking at? That's right, it's 1, isn't it? 1 group. There are 3 in that group, so 1/4 of 12 is 3. There they are in that quarter. Super. So your jobs for today then. You bring them up. So the easiest job actually today is those word problems, because you've done word problems before. Most of them are halves. So we've done doubling and halving before as well. Okay, so they're fairly straightforward. You just need to remember those steps, how to solve a word problem. Read it, underline the numbers, find what it's asking you to do. So what fraction are you looking at? Work it out using groups, draw your groups, share the objects out, whatever you've been asked to do, find the answer and then check it, okay? So quite like I said, quite a lot of them are to do with halving. Remember, if the fraction is 1/2, you are splitting into 2 groups, aren't you? So read the questions carefully, work them out onto a piece of paper or into your book is fine, using the groups method, and then see if you can find the answers. They do move on to quarters, all right? So there are a couple of quarters as well, all right? Remember, with quarters, how many groups? 4 groups, okay? 4 quarters. There are the answers at the end. So please don't look at them straight away. See if you can work them out first, and then you can mark your own work or get mummy or daddy to mark it for you, okay? All right. The next activity. So this is a little bit trickier. We're going on to comparing those fractions now using the greater than, less than, and equal signs. I've got them written at the top for you so that you know what they look like. And it says, colour in the fractions and use the greater than, less than, and equal sign to compare them. Draw the correct symbol in each box. So you're looking at 2 cakes at a time. You're in the cake shop. So it says here, look, half. It's already been split for you, so you just need to colour in 1/2. And you're comparing it against 1/4, colour in a quarter. Then just like we did at the start when we were comparing fractions on the board together, I want you to look at that half and look at that quarter and think how much of the shape has been shaded in, which has got more shaded in. All right, and then you're going to draw your greater than, less than symbol in the right way round. Remember, the crocodile eats the biggest, okay, and points away from the smallest. If it's equals, it's just an equal sign. They're the same, okay? So have a little look. You've got thirds, halves, and quarters and 3/4, okay? So look carefully. Right, the trickiest sheet. The trickiest sheet then. This one, it's bars of chocolate, okay? So colour in the fractions, and this time you're going to circle the biggest one, okay? So you've got 2 bars of chocolate for each one. So 1/2 or 1/3, that's one question. 1/3 or 2/3, that's the next question, okay? The bars have already been set out for you, so you've just got to colour in the right amount. Try to look at rows and columns. That's a good clue, okay? So halves, there are 2 rows, aren't there? Halves are 2 groups. So each row is a group. So 1/2 would be 1 row, wouldn't it? Okay. A third, if you look at the columns, there are 3 columns, aren't there? Thirds split into 3 groups. So the columns are your groups. 1/3, colour in a column. Then look at the shapes to decide which of those has then got the most coloured in, and then circle the biggest one. All right. That one is trickier. Look. There are 8s here, all right? There are some trickier fractions. Remember what I said the other day, though? If you can do halves, quarters, and thirds, you can do 8s. It's just splitting it into another number of groups, isn't it? This time it's 8 parts, all right? That's all you're doing, so 8 parts. So splitting it into 8 parts. Okay. If you get all of those done, and you still fancy a bit of a challenge, or you fancy a bit of a game, then I've also put in a board game for you to print off. The rules are on the front here and tells you what to do. It's called Fraction Forest. There are counters and the dice provided for you, but you don't have to use these. If you've got like counters at home from another game, that's fine. If you've already got a dice from another game like Snakes and Ladders, use that, it's fine. You don't have to print this page off, waste the ink. If you really want to, though, because you like the little characters and you want to keep it as a game, then that's fine. You do that. That's not a problem. But I'm just saying, you don't have to. Then you've got some problem cards, all right, and a board. So you work your way around the board, and whenever there's a basket, you need to pick yourself one of the problem cards and solve it. And I think if you solve it, you get to move on a few extra squares. All right. Here you are. It says, if you land on a space with a basket, pick up a fraction frenzy card and ask a friend to read you the question. If you answer the question correctly, you move forward an extra space. And it's a race to see who can get all the way to the end. All right, so that's just a nice, fun way of practicing those fractions in a different way if you get everything else done and you'd like something else. Don't forget as well that there is that game on Purple Mash. All right, that'll be on there for a whole week for you to be able to do and hand in your score. It's called Fractonio's Pizzeria, and it's a nice way of practicing fractions again. Okay, so these two games are if you've got other things finished and you've got a little bit of extra time, you want to practice some fractions some more. And that is really it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed learning about fractions. Some people can be a little bit intimidated by them, but once you realise that it's similar to division, once you're looking at those groups, it suddenly becomes a lot clearer. Have a little go. Don't panic if you find it tricky. We will cover it again. And don't forget, you can always email us or talk to us on Zoom about your work. I hope you have a lovely weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye.